This video is going to talk about how to create a presence record in iMapInvasives. It's going to be a test record, so it's not going to necessarily represent actual data that is real. It's just going to be for training purposes. So in order to get started, we first need to log into iMapInvasives, and I'm here at paimapinvasives.org, and I'm going to click on the login button. And I'm going to go ahead and enter my user credentials, my email, and my password. Okay, and then once we are logged in, this is the screen that we'll see, and we want to click the Create Record button and choose Presence. So there is different options you can choose as far as the shape type. You can choose point, line, or polygon. So for this instance, I'm just going to keep it at a point. And then you can select your location either by zooming in on the map by using the zoom tool over here, or by holding the shift button down and drawing a box at a particular area on the map and zooming in. We'll just clean up the map a little bit more just by, excuse me, turning on or turning off some of the layers so we can see it a little bit better. So you can zoom in and choose your location that way, or you can enter coordinates. And I actually have some coordinates already prepared for the location that I had surveyed for this particular example. And so I'm going to copy and paste those into the coordinate section here. So I'll choose Submit, and that will put me right at the location where I conducted my survey. I'm actually going to change the base map so I can see the landscape a little bit better. And this is where I made my finding. Again, this is just a training example. It's not necessarily real data. But for this instance, I want to say that the area I surveyed wasn't just this single point. So I'm going to buffer it by 10 meters to show that I surveyed kind of the general area right here at this boat launch. And we'll say accept that buffer and go to the options for next. And we're now going to choose the species that we found. And so it's going to be a finding for water chestnut. You can choose to either enter the common name or the scientific name. Either will be fine. And the observer is fine. We'll keep that as is. The date is fine. And for this example, since it's part of the Water Chestnut Chasers Challenge, we're going to add it to the Water Chestnut Chasers Challenge 2020 project. You're definitely going to want to add a photo, at least one. And so I'm going to add my one photo here. I would encourage you, if you can, to add multiple photos because that's always a good thing to be able to see all the area that you were seeing there as far as documenting that with a photo. So try to add more than one if possible, and make sure to add a photo credit so we know who took that photo. And then next, you're going to enter the number of plants that you found. And so I'm not entirely sure how many plants were at this location. Again, this is just a training example. But I do know about the percent cover of how many plants were there. I'm going to say as well about 5 to 25%. You can also use this little slider bar to adjust your percent cover. So if you notice as I'm sliding it, my percent cover in the drop down above is changing. So you can do it that way as well. There's also a distribution drop down that you can select from there as well. So I'm going to say it was a sparse population of water chestnut at this location. There's a comments box that you can add comments if you'd like for anything that might be relevant to include with this observation. There's also some advanced details as well that you can choose to fill in. So there's evaluation type options to choose from. There's also follow-up information, information on the impact of the invasive, what you see that it might be doing to this location as far as impacting the local habitat, wildlife, or other plant species. There's information on the repository if you happen to collect a sample of the specimen that you found and deposited at a museum. There's also information about biocontrols, phenologies, and so on. And so if any of those other options are relevant to include in your observation record, go ahead and fill in that information. And then when you're finished, go on to the next button, and it's going to show you a summary of everything that you just filled in. And if there's something that is either incorrect or missing that you forgot to fill in, you can just choose the back button to go back and fill in those details. But everything looks okay here, so I'm going to say complete. And once that saves, it gives me two record identification numbers. The first is the searched area record, and if we hover over that little information icon, it's saying that this searched area has been auto-generated, and that basically means that this record has been tied to this presence record, and that's because all records in iMapInvasives are tied to their own unique searched area record, and so that's been auto-generated by itself. So we can click on that just so you can see what's in there. So it shows us a map of the location. It gives us some basic information about who created it and their organization. And then there's also some details. We didn't necessarily fill in some of this information, but we are able to. If we want to click the edit button up here, we can edit any of these fields. But if we go back to the map and we click on this presence record, this is more of the basic information as far as what we just created and what we observed in the field. So here's that photo of water chestnut that I included, the photo credit, the infested area that gets created and basically by itself in IMAP. And then there's also information down here about the distribution. Again, I filled that in, and the tagged projects. And if you wanted to edit any of this information, again, you just choose that edit button. And now you can see that all these fields are now editable to me. So you can do that. And then once you're ready to save everything, you want to make sure you click the save button at the top. And that's how you create a presence record in IMAP.